This journey follows the lower route between Mayovac and Ha Giang, one of the most dramatic and demanding motorcycle roads in northern Vietnam. At the beginning, you can see the route marked in black on the map. It cuts through a remote borderland where mountains, rivers, and stone have shaped everything for millions of years. On a map, the distance looks manageable. On the road, it becomes something far more serious. This route runs through the heart of the Đồng Văn Karst Plateau, a vast limestone highland in Vietnam's far north. Long before humans arrived, this area lay beneath ancient seas. Over hundreds of millions of years, layers of limestone formed, were lifted upward, and then carved relentlessly by rivers. What remains today is a landscape of jagged ridges, vertical cliffs, narrow passes, and deep gorges that feel almost unreal in scale. Some of the exposed rock along this route is estimated to be more than 400 million years old, making this one of the oldest visible geological landscapes in Southeast Asia. Riding through it feels less like crossing a region and more like moving through deep geological time. Almost immediately, the road begins to cling to steep mountainsides. Below, river gorges open suddenly, dropping hundreds of meters into narrow valleys. In many places, the road seems barely attached to the mountain at all, cut into sheer stone, with sharp turns and limited visibility. Guardrails appear and disappear, and sometimes there is nothing at all between the asphalt and empty space. Along much of this route, China lies just across the gorge. The border often follows rivers and ridgelines far below, invisible from the road itself. Looking across these valleys, the mountains rising on the opposite side belong to another country, shaped by the same geology, but divided by borders drawn long after the land took form. There are no fences here, no signs, only stone, water, and distance. For centuries, these gorges acted as natural barriers, isolating communities and slowing movement. At the same time, they quietly shaped patterns of trade, migration, and contact across the mountains. This region has never been culturally uniform. Long before modern borders existed, people moved freely through these valleys, trading goods, marrying across villages, and migrating in search of land and opportunity. Because of that history, language, clothing, and customs can change dramatically from one valley to the next. In many villages along this route, people still speak their ethnic language at home and use Vietnamese mainly for trade, education, or contact with the outside world. Traveling here isn't just a journey through space, it's a journey across cultures, layered tightly together. Ethnic communities such as the Hmong, Dao, Lolo, Dai, and Nung have lived in this region for generations. Their villages are often small and scattered, built wherever the land allows, on narrow ridges, tucked into valleys or perched above rivers. Houses are reinforced with stone, fields are protected by rock walls, and paths follow the contours of the mountains rather than straight lines. Farming along the lower route is especially demanding. Soil is thin and rocky, water is scarce, and fields must be carved carefully into steep slopes. Terrace plots, hand-built irrigation channels, and stone fences are everywhere, evidence of centuries of adaptation and trial and error. Nothing here is easy, and nothing is wasted. Riding this road by motorcycle makes all of this impossible to ignore. You become very aware of distance. Fuel stops are few, towns are small. If something goes wrong, help may be far away. That sense of vulnerability sharpens everything. The sound of the engine echoing off cliff walls, the smell of wet earth after rain, the sudden shifts in light as clouds roll across the peaks. Weather here can change quickly. A clear sky can give way to mist, wind, or rain within minutes. Clouds move through the valleys below and then rise suddenly to surround the road. At times, visibility shrinks and the landscape feels closed in. At other moments, the clouds lift, revealing vast views across multiple ridgelines and deep valleys stretching into the distance. This is one of the reasons motorcycle travel works so well in regions like this. You don't just pass through the landscape, you feel every climb, every descent, every gust of wind pushing against the bike. Long stretches of road feel completely empty, followed by sudden moments of life. A roadside stall, a small bridge, a herd of animals, or a cluster of houses appearing without warning. Bridges along this route often mark transitions, crossing from one valley to another, from one community to the next. Rivers far below carry water toward the border and beyond, shaping both the land and the lives built along their banks. The lower route between Mayovac and Giang is often overshadowed by the more famous sections of the Giang Loop, but many riders consider it one of the most rewarding parts of the journey. Traffic is lighter, the road feels more exposed, and the sense of scale is overwhelming. Here, the road doesn't dominate the landscape, it submits to it. In recent years, this route has become an epic ride, sought out by backpackers and adventure travelers from around the world. The number of visitors has increased significantly, especially as guest houses and tour companies now offer organized motorcycle tours. Many travelers experience the route riding on the back of a motorcycle with a local driver, making a once isolated journey accessible to people who might not otherwise attempt it. Seeing the road today highlights how quickly travel in northern Vietnam has changed. What was once a difficult solitary ride has become a shared adventure. Yet even with increased tourism, the mountains remain immense, the gorges remain deep, and the road still demands attention and respect. As the route gradually leads back toward Giang, there is a growing sense of having crossed something meaningful. Not just distance, but terrain, cultures, and layers of history shaped by stone and isolation. This ride isn't about speed or efficiency, it's about immersion. It's about understanding how geology shapes culture, how isolation preserves diversity, and why northern Vietnam feels so fundamentally different from anywhere else in the country. The lower route doesn't offer easy rewards. It offers something better, perspective. It forces you to measure distance not in kilometers, but in effort, attention, and patience. Here, the road never pretends to dominate the landscape. It bends, narrows, and yields to the mountains, reminding you how small human construction is in the face of stone shaped over hundreds of millions of years. This journey makes borders feel temporary and abstract. Political lines fade when set against cliffs, rivers, and gorges that existed long before modern maps. Standing on this road looking across a valley into another country, it becomes clear that the land came first and human divisions followed much later. More than anything, the lower route shows how deeply human life adapts to the environment it depends on. Villages cling to slopes where farming seems almost impossible. Fields are carved by hand into rock. Daily life is shaped by weather, water, and terrain rather than convenience. Survival here has always required resilience, cooperation, and deep knowledge of the land. Riding this road leaves you with a lasting sense of humility. The mountains don't care how far you've traveled or where you're going next. They demand respect, focus, and time. In return, they offer something rare in modern travel, a chance to slow down and truly absorb where you are. Sometimes, the most unforgettable journeys aren't defined by where you arrive, but by everything the road asks of you along the way. It asks for patience when progress is slow, focus when the terrain becomes unforgiving, and humility when the landscape reminds you how small you are. It teaches you to pay attention, to weather, to light, to the condition of the road, and to the people who live along it. On routes like this, travel becomes less about movement and more about awareness. You begin to notice details that would otherwise pass unseen, the way villages cling to slopes, how rivers cut through stone, how daily life adjusts to the limits set by mountains and distance. Over time, the road stops being something you cross and becomes something you experience fully. And when the ride finally ends, what stays with you isn't just the destination, but the lessons carried quietly along the way, the sense of scale, the respect for the land, and the understanding that some journeys change you not through arrival, but through everything you give to reach it.